Bubbles float to the top of a container full of blood. A man seems to wake from an eternal mechanical slumber. He opens his eyes slowly. A giant case opens, spreading smoke throughout the room. He is presented with 2 massive handguns. Instantly, he shoots the roof of the truck he's in and begins defending against white vampire-like creatures. The door opens, and he leaps into the air, then slides on the snow-filled street. He begins shooting with arms crossed and holding the handgun sideways because it looks tough. And there's also this girl. She can't stop gasping at Bro's skills. Like every second she lets out one of these. It's annoying as shit. She calls him Brandon, and this scientific-looking dude says, no, his name is not Brandon. It's beyond the grave. Now that was tough. After the shootout, the characters become a little more fleshed out. This girl is targeted by an organization called Millennium. Her mother killed by them, by a man named Bloody Harry, and she's been running ever since. The white creatures lurk in the shadows of this rundown city, some of them more humanoid, some of them more alien in appearance. They follow the mysterious man and the girl to a graveyard, where the man named Brandon, or beyond the grave, looks down at some graves of his own. They seem familiar to him. The white creatures attack again, and Brandon defends the girl with superhuman abilities. Men in black suits order these creatures around, but their efforts are to no avail, as Beyond the Grave whips out an even bigger, more awesome gun that shreds the white creature to nothing. A report is made to the top executives of the organization that is Millennium. They see a picture taken from the most recent shootout, and see a face they once knew. And Bloody Harry stands out of his chair and says, "You're still alive, Brandon. Have you come back to betray me once again? Then I'll kill you again." And he laughs maniacally like an evil villain and shit. What if I told you this is about the mafia? Like eating spaghetti, money laundering, and saying things like, "Forget about it," and "Yeah, see? She's a real looker, see?" Okay, maybe not that much. But this anime is all about the mafia. This first episode is very misleading. It gives so many questions. Why does this guy have 2 names? And why does he have superpowers? Why is this organization after this harmless girl? And what are these white zombie-like creatures? But the question that persists over all of them is, how did we get here? The anime then goes on backstory mode for a whole 16 episodes, all leading up to where the first episode takes place, and we get to see Brandon and Harry in their younger days. But this time, they're not at each other's throats, they're actually best friends. Brandon, Harry, Kenny, Jolise, and Nathan are a group of street punks free to get into fights, steal, and do petty crimes for their street boss. Life like this is fun. These guys are free to do pretty much whatever they want. While the money isn't very good and they work for a notorious scumbag, Brandon has a blossoming relationship with a girl he saved from another group of punks, and Harry a known player and womanizer. Things seem to be going well until they get their asses handed to them by an actual mafioso, a man with the guts to pull the trigger and take another person's life. But this guy is out of line, seeming to kill anybody that gets in his way. And just as they watch this man kill, they see another mafioso come and kill him. After this encounter, Harry and Brandon desire to become more than just street punks. They want in on the mafia, and the biggest gang in town is called Millennium. Everybody knows about it, they've got ears everywhere, and the cops in their pockets. They're defined by their black suits and sunglasses. So Harry speaks to the man who was sent to deal with the former member, and they give him a chance to prove himself. Harry becomes the brain of a small up-and-coming operation, and his brawn being Brandon. Harry is a cunning guy, and actually succeeds in his first plan. If he performs well enough, he can become a member, one of 20,000 existing participants in Millennium. And if he's really good, he can become part of the family, 1 in 100 of the gang's most elite. And part of what makes Millennium so powerful is the way they deal with traitors. Anyone who betrayed the organization is killed immediately, under any circumstances. That's how they place stability in their members and also remain uncompromised. The rest of the story is spent as Harry and Brandon climb the ladder of Millennium and try to become part of the family. The side characters in this anime are also pretty solid. One of my favorites is Kugashira Bunji. He's on equal level as Brandon as the muscle for the gang. They actually become like partners, doing Harry's dirty work as he comes up with the plans. You can kind of tell why Bunji is awesome just by looking at him. The dude is always wearing sunglasses, this jacket is sick, his car is sick, he has these dope ass guns that come out of his sleeves, and a jawline so sharp it could cut a hole in the fabric of the universe. He's also one of those characters that only does things for the thrill. He really seeks out action above all else. Always ready for a fight and seemingly unafraid of death. Kind of like Thorkel. So obviously, he's sick as frick. Another character that I found very enjoyable is Bear Waken. His relationship with the other members of the organization is all about loyalty and the code of iron. He does this all to protect his daughter, who has a bear-themed stuffed animal to remind her of her dad. Like, they made the most tough, hard-boiled, all-business guy on the outside such a softie on the inside, and it's just heartwarming. Like, how am I supposed to not like this guy? The final side character I really enjoyed was this old guy Brandon meets when he's just starting out in his criminal career. This guy runs a sharking operation, but does it so that he can pay for his old house-ridden mother. And he drops the wisest shit to Brandon and to the viewers. All of these characters grow and develop their own ways of thinking about the organization and their decisions about how to deal with it. While the city Millennium rules over isn't given a name in this anime, it looks like a very Italian-inspired town. With these sprawling citywide shots, you can see the orange rooftops and the hilly topography. It also gives that really 90s vibe. And I have to say, this anime is kinda beautiful, bro. Some of these shots of the city are so detailed, and especially the characters' faces and models, like, you can't just take the hair off of one character and swap it with another, and they look exactly the same like you can with some anime. These motherfuckers have wrinkles. The Asian people look Asian, the black people look black, and the white people look white. They all have different facial structures and shit. But I digress. Something that seems to loom in the back of every character's mind is that code of iron, that if you betray the organization, you will be sent for and you will be killed. And every character in the show tailors their ideals around that rule. The most notable ideals are about protection and freedom. Every character in the show has something they want to protect, be it a love interest, a family member, or a state of being, meaning that things are going well right now and I don't want that to be ruined. And Millennium is not a typical mafia organization. In most mafia movies, there's nothing they won't do. Drug dealing, assassination, and just general evilness is present in every member of the gang. But in Millennium, while being obviously illegal and committing crimes, seems to have some sort of integrity. There are certain things that aren't allowed, and this comes from the organization's leader, his mission in creating Millennium to protect everyone and everything that the organization holds dear. But when there are rules, certain people will want to break those rules. And in any mafia movie, it's pretty much fate that the main characters have an unfortunate future ahead of them. What is freedom? Every character has their definition of protection, but also freedom. Sometimes freedom is found in loyalty, sometimes it's found in fun, and sometimes it's found in power. The dynamic between Harry and Brandon is ever changing throughout this anime. But after the first episode, we know that at some point, Brandon and Harry have to have some sort of falling out between them. And just as you're getting attached to these characters and the integrity of this organization, the pieces start to fall into place. That question of how did we get here starts to become, how is it going to happen? And all of those questions you originally had after the first episode begin to be answered. But the answer is not something comfortable. The story is tragic, and even though it seems like you know what's going to happen, it still feels shocking not because of whether you knew it or not, but because of the attachment to this cast and this story. Then that question changes again, from how is it going to happen to when is it going to happen? You already know the who and the how, and now it's a matter of time. It's imminent, inevitable. And the way that this anime builds that tension is fantastic. I remember watching this for the first time, and when the falling out happened, I was still impressed and baffled, like my jaw was on the floor. I honestly really appreciate this style of storytelling, as opposed to flashbacks in the middle of a fight. I think giving a whole season's worth of episodes to backstory is way better for the watching experience. I remember in Hajime no Ippo, the last season is pretty much a backstory dedicated to Coach Kamogawa in his early boxing days. Like if they did that in a flashback, it would have been so much worse. But now, when I think about it, that made Kamogawa one of my favorite characters, and it was also one of my favorite parts of the show. What I liked and what I didn't like. I think this anime's strongest selling point is its story. I don't believe that the fight scenes are so good that it makes this anime a must-watch, but the story is what kept me invested. There are so many twists and turns, and even though we may know somewhat what's going to happen early on, it keeps you watching with these little changes. It's full of little things you wouldn't realize unless you had watched it a second time. Certain characters you didn't think were important were actually pulling the strings all along, looming in the background and developing their own scheme. If you think I've spoiled some things in this video, believe me, I haven't even scratched the surface of the roller coaster of a plot this anime has. Another thing I really liked was Harry McDowell. This guy is such a great character. He really reminds me of those iconic mobster movies like Scarface and Goodfellas. Started off as a good-for-nothing punk with a wish to make it to the top, and even though he's portrayed as the antagonist of this series, he makes one hell of an argument to the question, did he really do anything wrong? Now here's what I didn't like. I feel like they could have fleshed out Brandon's personality a lot more. I understand that he's supposed to be the dark, nonchalant main character that gets all the huzzy-wuzzies, but some of the conversations characters have with Brandon feel so lackluster, like someone will ask him a question and he just won't respond, and then the person that asked that question will just fill in the words as if they knew exactly what he was thinking, or he'll just say one word and then everybody starts laughing. Shut up! That shit was not that funny. Quit aura farming and say something. What I think they were going for is a character that is defined by their actions and not their words. That is pretty much Brandon to a T, but when everyone is just having a regular conversation and Brandon is doing his silent treatment bullshit, it's a little frustrating. Other than that, the anime is decent. No complaints. I said in the title of this video, this anime is like Berserk but in the mafia, and I said that because there's a lot of similarity between the two series.
Yeah, the mafia and medieval fantasy have so much in common, dumbass.
Well, I wasn't gonna say that, fatherless Frankie. What I was gonna say is they both have a first chapter with the main character in the future, fighting against demons and shit, and both Guts and Brandon meet their lifetime enemy and seek out revenge against them. Another similarity is that those two lifetime enemies used to be best friends. Then they slimed their day one once they made it out the hood. And they both do the whole good guy is always wearing black and bad guy is always wearing white, wolf in sheep's clothing and sheep in wolf's clothing kind of thing. Is it a stupid comparison? Yeah, kinda. Get clickbaited, little bro. But if you really like Berserk and are looking for something similar, I would highly recommend this. Usually when I recommend an anime to someone, there are some surface level requirements that need to be met. Does it look like shit? Does it sound like shit? And does it feel like shit? In other words, is the animation good? Is the voice acting and the soundtrack good? And is the story good? The anime was produced by Madhouse Studios. Madhouse has done famous anime like One Punch Man Season 1, Death Parade, and Hellsing Ultimate. And if you've seen any of those anime, you'd know they are beautiful as shit. So no, it does not look like shit. The dub is average, but the sub has a lot of A-list voice actors like Takahito Koyasu, who is the voice behind Dio, Takasugi Shinsuke, and Zeke Yeager. They also have Fumihiko Tachiki, who voiced General Akainu, Kenpachi Zaraki, and the Madao himself, Hasegawa. And there are many more great voice actors there, so no, it does not sound like shit. And I already talked about the plot, so this anime most definitely puts you in the feels and passes the surface test. Overall, I give this anime a 7.5 out of 10, and I don't think I've said its name so far, so it's called Gungrave. There is no space in between the words gun and grave, it's all one word.